Matthew here now with Business. He's talking banks today. The International Monetary Fund warning of increased dangers to banks in the Eurozone again as well.
Yes, that's right. The IMF is saying that too much money is leaving banks in the Eurozone periphery countries like Spain and Italy to be deposited in banks in countries that are perceived as safer from the Eurozone crisis, like Germany, like the UK to some extent as well. We can take a look at the sorts of figures we're talking about here. Almost 300 billion euros out of Spain in the 12 months to June. That's about 25% of the country's 2011 GDP. Wow. Now, why does that matter? Well, the effect of that could be to depress lending. That, of course, makes the Eurozone crisis even worse. Now, the other important thing about these meetings that are taking place with the IMF and the World Bank in Tokyo today is that the governor of China's central bank has decided he is going to be a no-show. Now, the official reason is scheduling, but the real reason is more likely to be this dispute between China and Japan over islands in the East China Sea. Now, this whole dispute is also hurting Japanese companies. Earlier this week, Toyota announced that its sales in September in China were down by about half. And there's some more bad news for Toyota this morning as well, Stuart. It's recalling 7.5 million cars worldwide due to a fire risk.
Ooh, that doesn't sound too good. What are the markets? Have they been reacting to all that news?
They have been reacting. I can tell you as well that Toyota shares on that news down almost 2%. Let's stay with Asia. The Nikkei not looking so good, down 2%. Only the Shanghai Composite pretty flat there. In Europe, markets are opening, and still this sentiment over weaker growth for the world economy dragging things down. You can see most markets down. Just time to tell you as well, French industrial production, got figures for that for August this morning, up 1.5%.
All the figures always come out at once, don't they? We're going to stay in Europe now. A last-minute deal's been done on taxing financial transactions. It's something that's been around for a while.
It's been around for a while, absolutely. But they finally seem to have made some progress with this. Now, 9 European countries were needed to get this off the starting blocks. In fact, 11 countries in the EU have signed up. Now, that means that group will start imposing this tax, although the other countries, including Sweden and the UK, remain opposed.
This could be the beginning of a regulation on a financial transaction tax in Europe. 11 countries, including France, Germany, Italy and Spain, have agreed to tax transactions on stocks and bonds between financial institutions at 0.1% and derivatives at 0.01%.
The financial transaction tax is about fair taxation, smart taxation, and a stronger, more coordinated approach to taxing the financial sector. These objectives remain valid and fully achievable. So now it is the time for swift progress.
According to the European Commission, if all EU countries were on board, the tax could bring an estimated 57 billion euros. But the UK, home to Europe's largest financial market, strongly opposes the initiative. Sweden is also skeptical. Those who agree with the measure do not necessarily agree on what should be done with the money. France thinks this extra revenue should contribute to the EU's budget, but Germany is against it.
And staying in Europe, keeping an eye on the big aviation and defence merger story.
Yes, that's right. Now, this is, of course, the planned merger between EADS, the aviation giant, and British defence company BAE Systems. Now, those two companies have until 5 p.m. London time, that's under British stock market rules, to say whether they are going to continue talks. Now, of course, those talks being bogged down by wrangling over the government shares, really, in the two companies. We've been hearing this morning EADS saying that there will be no statement this morning. They're going to go right up to the wire, it seems, on this one. Well, let's get some more of the day's company news. And there's more bad news for the Chinese technology giant Huawei. Canada has now joined the US in branding the company a security threat that could exclude Huawei from a key government contract to build a secure government network.
America's biggest mortgage lender is facing fraud charges. A lawsuit has been filed by the Manhattan US attorney against Wells Fargo. The action alleges that mortgage fraud by the bank cost the government hundreds of millions of dollars. Wells Fargo has denied those charges.
And the French music and electronics retailer Fnac is to be floated on the stock market. Fnac's owner, PPR, made the announcement on Tuesday. PPR says it plans to focus on its higher margin luxury and sporting goods businesses. It owns brands including Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent and Puma.
The producer's been moaning at me for doing too many puns, but I can't help it. We've got a fishy story for you now. The French scallop fishermen in Normandy are seething at their British counterparts. There's a serious side to this, though, isn't there?
It's serious. You'll see in this report
Okay.
a war of words has broken out. Angry words in the open seas. The French have to follow different rules when it comes to fishing for scallops. That's led to a breakdown of communications, to say the least.
The Entente Cordiale is dead off the Normandy coast. British and French scallop fishermen are exchanging insults.
I can't understand you, but go take a jump.
They're mooning us, doing the finger, wearing Union Jacks.
Normandy trawlermen have lined up a flotilla against their UK counterparts. The Brits say they are perfectly entitled to be there.
We have been here for months fishing. I'm outside from international waters.
Discussions on board are calmer. The French argue the British are fishing for scallops too early. The first UK vessel was spotted in July, 2 months before the French scallop season opens. While the British are doing so legally, the Norman crews are fuming.
They are pillaging the scallop grounds. Here we work intelligently preserving the scallop population. We let them lay eggs in May and leave them to fatten over the summer. We do it the intelligent way, but others come to reap a profit. That's not right.
The British don't give a damn about us, and they're right. The French government is protecting them. No one wants to do anything about this. No one cares.
The British say they'll fish till November, meaning more verbal broadside is likely.
Yeah, some serious words indeed. Now, staying here in France, François Hollande meeting the Spanish leader today.
That's right. Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy will be in Paris today. He'll have a working lunch with the French president. Of course, top of the agenda will be Eurozone crisis, and presumably they'll be talking as well about whether Spain is indeed going to get a bailout.
This time we're staying in Spain. Bad news for one of Spain's best-known newspapers.
Yeah, the Spanish media sector really having a hard time during this crisis. Now it's the Spanish daily El País. They are axing 1/3 of their staff, and for those that remain, they'll be seeing their salaries cut by 15%. It's a total of 149 layoffs. That's according to an employees' council. Now, the crisis has been reducing sales of newspaper and also advertising that goes in those newspapers, which of course is crucial. The Spanish media sector, in fact, lost 8,000 jobs since this whole crisis began.
Now, it's not the latest hot crime novel. It's not even Harry Potter. One book has become a surprise bestseller in Italy.
Yes, and perhaps a sign of the times, really, when a book called Milano Low Cost becomes a bestseller within days of its release. Now, this book does what I suppose you'd expect it to do. It gives tips on how you can live a low-cost life in Milan. It grew out of a blog all about living in Milan. It came out last month and needed a reprint after just 5 days when it shot to the top of the book charts. That's a record for such a quick reprint of a book.
OK, worth spending your money on that, even if not spending it on anything else by the sound of it.
Save a bit, yes, afterwards.
All right, Matthew, thank you very much. Matthew with the business on France 24. The latest news will be with you after the break with Claire.